Good afternoon, Mercer Island community. My name is Jessie Bond, and I am the city manager for the city of Mercer Island. I am joined this afternoon by Mayor Benson Wong and Police Chief Ed Holmes. We are getting together this afternoon to provide you with an update on the recent incidents in our region, and we have a number of announcements to make. I would like to begin with inviting Mayor Wong to make a few remarks. Mayor Wong.
Thank you, Jesse. This has been an emotional and difficult time for our region and the entire nation. The treatment and tragic death of George Floyd has sadly reminded this country of the adverse impact that racism has had and continues to have on our country. From that death echoes the yearning by many for social justice for all. Our hearts go out to the family of George Floyd, to the community, to the families of those who were injured and killed over the weekend, and also to the business owners in Seattle, Bellevue, and other neighboring cities who saw their life's work destroyed over the weekend. The city of Mercer Island has a long, proud history of encouraging and promoting inclusion and religious and cultural diversity, not only within our community, but well beyond our borders. As the first person of color to serve as mayor of Mercer Island, I am very aware and appreciative of this openness. Your council and city government honor and respect the voices of every member of our community and also their First Amendment right to express those beliefs peacefully. Coming together is a right we all cherish as we commit ourselves to the cause of justice. As an attorney myself, I strongly believe that the rule of law applies to all, including police officers. However, we condemn the lawless, senseless, and criminal looting and rioting that has resulted in the recent destruction of both private and public properties that has occurred across the country. These acts, which are causing neighboring cities to impose curfews to protect public safety and welfare, will simply not be tolerated here in Mercer Island, and we are prepared to respond. We are saddened that organized bad actors seek to divide our communities during a time when we should be coming together. They overshadow the real grievances that these protests seek to spotlight and address. We all can honor Mr. Floyd and the members of our community who feel disenfranchised by peacefully committing ourselves to the cause of justice and working even harder to promote diversity and inclusion. I truly believe this. I join my fellow Islanders in peacefully grieving, remembering, and honoring Mr. Floyd and those in our community who acutely feel pain and frustration over racial bias. As your mayor, my role is to heal divides and bring people together. Let us use words and actions in a positive and constructive way as we work together towards healing these wounds. Don't let silence be your words and action. We must all commit to the real message of hope and peace, not destruction and chaos. Jesse.
Thank you very much, Mayor Wong. I know we appreciate those words. Mercer Island community, I wanted to let you know that we have made the decision in consultation with our police chief, Ed Holmes, who will be speaking in just a moment, and other cities around the region to impose a curfew this evening. The curfew will begin at 7 o'clock p.m. and extend until 5 o'clock a.m. tomorrow morning. A few comments leading up to this decision. As you know, during the past several days, unlawful assemblies and riots resulting in looting and destruction of private and public properties have occurred during the evening in the cities of Seattle, Bellevue, Tukwila, and Renton, causing these cities to impose curfews and/or to take other actions to protect the public peace, safety, and welfare. The city of Mercer Island is concerned that those rioting and looting in nearby cities may consider coming to Mercer Island to do the same. The Mercer Island Police Department has put extra officers on duty, and Washington State Patrol and other partner agencies are on standby in case rioters and looters come to Mercer Island. And we also believe there exists a potential threat of riot and unlawful assembly here on Mercer Island that could result in things like serious injuries or destruction of property. In our judgment, we feel it is appropriate at this time to implement a curfew. This falls under the authority of the mayor, who has signed a civil emergency declaration. I will just read the statement regarding the curfew that's been imposed. A general curfew applicable to Mercer Island as a whole, it's island-wide, is imposed from 7 o'clock p.m. Monday, June 1st, 2020 to 5 o'clock a.m. on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. The exception is for essential critical infrastructure workers under the Governor's Proclamation 20-2025. Otherwise, no other person shall enter or remain in the public right-of-way, in any public parks, or at any other public place during the curfew. As for businesses, all essential buildings or brick and mortar storefront businesses on Mercer Island shall also close and remain closed from 7 o'clock p.m. this evening to 5 o'clock a.m. tomorrow morning. We are in the process now of notifying the business community. We've been in touch with them throughout the day, and I understand they are making plans to close. We will be sharing this proclamation across our communications channel just shortly after this briefing concludes. Now, I know probably most of you are joining us today to hear from Chief Holmes. I want to thank Chief Holmes. He was working all weekend. He was working this morning until the wee hours of the morning and fielding phone calls and emails for me. as many other. Chief Holmes, could you give us an update on what's happening and our planned response?
Sure. And before I do that, I just want to make a quick statement and go on the record by saying that the death of George Floyd should have never happened. And his death was absolutely inexcusable. And that officer does not, former officer, does not represent the ideals of law enforcement. So I just want to go on the record as saying that. Now, to Mercer Island specifically, I want all of you to know that I personally and your whole police department take very seriously the notion of keeping this community safe. And so we have been in consultation with other chiefs in the area, had a call late Saturday night, a conference call. We had another one this morning talking about what every other department is doing, what they are experiencing, what are the lessons learned, and what can we do to collectively help each other. So we have, as the city manager mentioned, we have ramped up our staffing, albeit not a huge department. We've ramped it up to the extent we can. We do have some contingent resources that have said they'd be willing to help us, and we also have made some tactical plans for some possible protesters, and I'm sure you can appreciate the fact that I don't want to advertise what those tactical plans are, but we have been giving them a lot of thought and talking to other agencies and looking at how they've been doing things, and again, like I mentioned, just going through the lessons learned. So we want to be prepared, and we want to do what we can to keep this community safe.
So, Chief, I just want to follow up on one of your last comments. I know we've received a number of emails and questions regarding our specific plans. You know, are you doing this? Are you doing this? And we've been doing our best to communicate, but we're not communicating about the tactical plans. Can you just say any more about that?
Sure. What I don't want this community to think is that we don't have any plans. And like I say, I hope you can appreciate why we don't want to publicly advertise what our plans are. But rest assured, we do have plans in place, along with assignments of the officers, where they will be stationed, where they will be deployed should we need them to go to certain areas. So we do have plans, and again, I just hope that you understand why we don't want to advertise those publicly.
Chief, I have a question.
Sure.
So are you in consultation with other police departments in this region, and what about National Guard and Washington State Patrol and King County Sheriff?
Yes, almost all of the above. I don't know that the National Guard has any available resources for us, so that does cause me some concern, but I have other agencies, and specifically the State Patrol, who has much larger numbers, who they are willing and at the ready to help in the region wherever they can. So I have some assurances from them. And again, they have to prioritize their resources where the biggest need is, but we do have some capacity there, as well as some other possible options. But again, understand we are not alone in this. So other agencies, other cities are experiencing similar challenges. So we are all doing our best to take care of our own communities and then to help when and if we can our neighbors. It's particularly helpful for some of the larger agencies that have a lot more resources than Mercer Island. I think they're more easily able to help their neighbors. So everybody appreciates those of us who are smaller in numbers and our limited ability to help when we have to primarily focus on our own city, in this case, obviously, Mercer Island. So yes, we've been in consultation a number of times.
Before I forget, not that I will forget this, but I just want to, on behalf of the community, on behalf of the city council, just thank you and the police department. And I know that the fire department helped out in Bellevue yesterday as well. So thank you so much for the service and your commitment. And you know that the city council basically has your back. And so we're there to support you.
Thank you, and please know that that does mean a lot. It means a lot coming from you as the mayor. It means a lot knowing our city council supports us, and it means a lot when I get emails and phone calls from members of the community who appreciate the position we're in and appreciate the fact that we're doing our level best and just how seriously we all take this. So that is appreciated. Thank you.
Chief, could you just take a moment and talk a little bit about the work that our detectives are doing? I know we've had a lot of questions come in about, you know, the threats, are they credible? And we're doing our best to trace them back. Tell us about the work we're doing, what we found out at this point, if you can. If you can't, I'm understanding of that position too.
Sure. So it makes good sense to have our investigators chase down any possible leads, or in this case, possible threats. So we have, to the extent we can, we've pursued the threats that have come across our email and the phones. And while we can't say with certainty these are credible or not, there's enough of them to cause us concern. And so people have got into sort of a debate, is this credible or not? It's hard to know if you don't know the source. And when I get these second and third hand, but as I say, if you get enough of these, it causes me concern. Every once in a while we get a threatening email, and there's no way to verify it, and it lives alone, and there's no real context in which to put that threat. That is very different than several threats, especially in the times we're in right now. So we are taking this very seriously, even though I can't say for sure this is a 100% credible threat. I don't know that it needs to be quite honest with you, if we get enough of them. So we're at a place where we are significantly concerned, and I think this idea of a curfew makes a lot of sense, and I know it will inconvenience some Mercer Islanders, and for that I'm sorry. I really do hope you can understand, on balance, some inconvenience versus what we've been seeing going on in other areas. We really do want to do what we can to prevent that from happening here.
So Chief, this might be a good moment for me to put a plug in. A couple things the community can do to help us this evening. First of all, stay home. The curfew is in place to keep you safe and to allow our police officers to do their necessary work on the island. The other thing to follow up on that comment is, if you do have a source or something that would help our police officers or other police agencies investigate and follow up on leads for planned criminal activity, please do call 911. I know yesterday we were chasing down an alleged, I'll call it a flyer that was being distributed. We heard about it, but we could never get the actual proof. So you all play such an important role, your eyes and ears, even keeping tabs on your various social media feeds, keeping an eye on communications that are happening with others in your household. Any of those tips may actually be very useful and help not only the Mercer Island Police, but our partners in the region who are all responding to these very unfortunate incidents. Did anything you want to follow up on regarding those comments, Chief?
I think that makes a lot of sense. We do rely on our citizens to help us. You're our eyes and ears, as you've heard me say probably a number of times before. So if you get information that you think would be helpful, please do forward it to us. We'll chase it down. And again, even if we can't verify the source, as we are doing in this case, if we get enough of them, it gives us a pretty good idea of what to be looking out for. So that helps to inform our decision making as well. So that'd be appreciated.
Chief, just to follow up on that, so if people have information, is it best to call 911, or is there another way to provide your department with that information?
It's probably best and easiest to call 911 and get an officer on the line to explain. Sometimes if you get an email, I don't know who it's from, and I have no context regarding what the email says. So it's really helpful if you can have even a brief conversation. If the officer can have a brief conversation with the person calling it in, it just helps us. So that's something we'd appreciate.
Chief, another question for you from the business community. I know that Kirkland issued a press release earlier today asking businesses to close at 1 o'clock. We understand they were responding to information about potential activity happening in Kirkland. Our curfew is at 7 o'clock. Businesses have reached out and said, should we close early? What advice can you give them?
I think, okay, when the curfew goes in effect, you need to be closed. I think that's pretty clear. I would certainly encourage you to think long and hard if you want to close earlier. So while we're not mandating that, I think Kirkland had a different type of a threat that caused them to do a hard stop on businesses at 1 p.m. this afternoon. Ours is not the same case, but I certainly would encourage you to think long and hard if you want to close your shop. I think that could make a lot of sense just to keep you, the customers, and your workers safe. That's something I think you should consider.
Excellent. For those of you in the business community, I know if you're connected to us via email, Sarah Bluvis, our small business liaison, has been reaching out to you today. She's certainly happy to support you in troubleshooting operations. Several people have also asked, will this curfew be in place tomorrow? And the answer is maybe. We will see what happens tonight, and again, working with the region, evaluate the situation. We will probably be taking this day to day. We are planning out even into the weekend. Anything else you can elaborate on regarding that, Chief?
Well, I mean, these are unusual times, and this isn't some event that happened yesterday and it's over and done with. So we certainly appreciate the fact that we are in this sort of this space and time where we need to be on high alert. And so we are calling in additional resources for the duration of the week in one form or another. We will have additional resources here on into the weekend. And as you mentioned, it's really a day-by-day thing. So we'll take it one day at a time. I sure don't want to be complacent. So I don't think you guys have to worry about the police department becoming complacent on this. This is high on our priority list, is paying attention to what's going on and doing our level best to make sure we keep Mercer Island safe.
Absolutely. Chief, again, I want to ask, we have citizens reaching out saying, do you need us to show up in force and link arms and protect the island? And that's not what we would like to have happen. Can you speak to that?
I certainly appreciate people's willingness to help out. I really do. Some of the concerns I have is especially people mentioning that they are armed and they can come help. We don't know who you are. And if we see people with weapons, that causes a big concern for us, especially if you're in civilian clothes. We don't know who you are. So the strong preference is, especially during this curfew time, just to be out of especially the town center. We will be contacting people who are violating that curfew. So please stay out of the town center, especially during the curfew, as we will be contacting people who are not abiding by that curfew.
Excellent. Any final thoughts or other ways the community can help us right now? Anything you'd like to share to close?
I think beyond just letting us know if you hear of any threats, I think just your well wishes and remembering us, it's a difficult time. It's a difficult time not just for law enforcement. This is a difficult time for this community, communities across the state, and communities across the country. So we have a lot of work to do, and we are invested in and want to see meaningful change. And so we are all on the same page when it comes to that. And peaceful protests, you know, we don't have problems with. We have big concerns when people hijack those and turn violent. So just being ever mindful of that, getting us through this together. We'll get through this. I just want to make sure when we do that we come out on the other side better as a nation, better as a community and as a nation. So I guess that'd be my sort of parting thoughts on that.
Excellent. And I just realized I wrote myself a note. I forgot to ask you about this. Working with the region, one of the things that we have found over the past several days is that social media in some cases is actually working against communities, as social media is used by cities and other organizations to describe what we're doing to keep ourselves safe. That information is getting out to the people committing crimes. It's like we're handing over our playbook to them. So to the Mercer Island community, I want to tell you we've been stuck in the last 24 hours between a rock and a hard place. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes, but we also are not going to hand over our playbook to people that are intending to commit crimes. And I'll ask you to be thoughtful about how you're using your own social media platform and what information you're sharing, who's seeing it. It's such a strained time to be saying don't use social media, but it is being used in negative ways in a number of these communities. I know this is coming up in terms of the work our detectives are doing. Anything else you'd like to add before we conclude on that?
Yeah, I would just say just as our detectives mine social media for intelligence, so do the bad guys. And so you may be well-meaning in your efforts to push out information, but just I ask that you be extra judicious during this time as far as sharing any details of what's going on Mercer Island. It would be helpful if you just were really mindful of what you push out.
It's such a double-edged sword. It's hard to even describe, but thank you for being thoughtful and helping us convey a message of certainly safety and unity and peaceful protesting. We will continue to hold that ground and our work behind the scenes to protect Mercer Island. Mayor Wong, any final thoughts before we conclude?
I just want to echo something that the chief said, and I think it's very important. And we're obviously experiencing a crisis at the moment. I mean, it's a very severe crisis, and we will get through this, but after the crisis is over, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and a lot of healing, and it's going to take a lot of time, but it's going to have to be done proactively. And so I'm encouraging all those who are listening and to our members of our community that want to take steps forward to make this community and our society a better place for all people, that after this crisis is over, let's join hands and let's move forward together. So,
absolutely. My thanks again, Mayor Wong, Chief Holmes. I know you both have been very busy today for squeezing this in. I know the Mercer Island community appreciates hearing from both of you. I will remind you, for those that may have joined late, we did announce at the beginning of this broadcast we will be imposing a curfew beginning tonight at 7:00 p.m., extending through tomorrow at 5:00 a.m. We are uncertain whether or not we will have a curfew tomorrow. We are evaluating the situation day by day. What you can do to help is, first of all, stay home and stay safe. That is the most useful to our police department. And if you have information about planned criminal activity on Mercer Island or in any part of the region, please do call 911. We have detectives working, as actually the entire region has a team of detectives working in response to the riots and looting that has happened. Again, thank you, Mercer Island community, for your incredible grace and for supporting us as we work through this very serious situation. We will certainly be back in touch if we have additional information to report. Again, thank you and stay safe tonight.